post the replays for those who can't make the live times, and for those who maybe there's a piece of it that you want to listen to again. So welcome here today. I'm Mick-eye-la. Alice would love to hear who's with me. If you'd like to say hello, let me know where you're from. If this is your first time with me today, that would be cool to know. I would love to know if you're like already here on Insight Timer, or maybe you heard about this from somewhere else and just came in for this one. Whatever you'd like to share, it's always nice to connect in that way. Hi, Violet. Hello from New York. How lovely to see you. Hi, Suze. Howdy from South Carolina. Looking forward to today's talk. Awesome. Great. Looking forward to it too. And to see what comes up from all of us. I like to see that, like, we all are lived by this same energy, right? It's the grand equalizer, the great equalizer. So I have seen some things on this topic, and the topic is, here's the title: Why We Do What Doesn't Serve Us and How to Change That. And we'll all have the reason why we do some of these things can be very specific. But there is some generalities too that can be helpful. And we will all have seen something in one area of our life that it's not an issue. It's not an issue for you. It works easy. And then the person sitting beside you, could be me, sees it as something hard, or however it's going to be. And we'll get into some examples later. And we can learn from each other. We can learn and we can see more together. And the whole point of this is to spark within you your own inner wisdom, because that is what is going to be most helpful for you. So if you've not been in the room with me before, that is my intent. It's like, how can I, yes, they'll be sharing from my own personal stories, maybe from other people I've seen, other people I've helped, maybe someone even in this room is going to share something in the chat that will be helpful, more helpful to someone else here than what I've said. So we're here to spark, to tap each other's own inner wisdom, to experience something more to your preference that will just help us all navigate life just a little bit easier, have an easier time of it. So I love to begin with just a little bit of breathing, just really arriving. We only ever have this moment. There's only one moment that you are living, that you can be present to. And the breath is a really great way to get present, because we can only breathe the breath that we're breathing right here, right now. I can't breathe my breath from yesterday or even a moment before. I can't breathe tomorrow's breath. So however you feel like breathing right now in this moment, just bring your attention to that. And I'm going to mute for a moment because I'm going to cough. In this moment, noticing the air that's moving in and out of a part of our body called the lungs. And all along the way, it's maybe touching our lips if our mouth is open and we're breathing. Maybe our nostrils. There's this connection between the mouth and the nose at the back of the throat. And whether we're breathing in through the nose or the mouth, that will be touched. There's a path that it follows. And we can track it. Brings us to this moment. Unaware of the moment. I forgot that we were in the moment until I mentioned that we're in this moment, because I was thinking about the breath and tracking it down into my lungs. Notice what your breath wants you to do. It just had me like stretching about and moving. Let's have 3 more together. I'm grateful that we're all here breathing. We are all here in this moment, many miles apart, yet connected by our breath, which is energy, which is living us all, coming through us all. So, when we're looking at why we do the things we do, I'm feeling your love. Feeling the love that connects us all, right? When we look at why we do these things, and we can explore specific areas today. Maybe you already have something on your mind about, something that you're doing. We might call it habitually doing. We might not even be aware of it, right? And that's what we're going to look at today. So really what I hope for today is to invite you to look at it in another way. In a way that maybe you don't typically look at these things. I'll share my story about something I've had help with today. Actually, a few times over the last couple of days. And then something sort of seemed to land in a different way today. And I'm kind of expecting that what I was trying to do differently it'll appear different. It'll just look different. So let's just dive into this. So what I see and what I've done and what I even had been doing up until today, what I see is that we see something that happens in our life and we see that we keep doing it. And then we keep giving our attention to it. We keep looking at it. And we keep, wanting to stop it and wanting it to be different. We might, now one of the things that happens, pardon me, one of the things that happens is that the more, and this is just how the world works. This is just how the mind works, because we are energy, because we vibrate, because that's what energy does. Everything that we believe we are and that we see outside of us is vibrating. And when we give something our attention, we are enlivening it. We are making it bigger with our attention. We are giving it our energy. You've heard these things over the years, right? What we give our attention to, where our attention goes, our energy flows, and there's a variety of different ways of speaking to that. But what happens is what we're giving our attention to, we're actually kind of locking it into place. If we're looking at it as it is, as it looks to be, and we don't want that, we want something different, we're not enjoying that, we are actually kind of locking it into place if we keep looking at the same thing. Another thing that we might do, so here's one thing about attention, and we are going to put some attention on it, but not for the purpose of, more for the purpose of understanding it, just being aware of it. Because there's some things that I've shared before that we are always looking to feel better. We are always looking, we are naturally tipping over into the place that has us feeling better. And since we were kids, we've had some things that we've been doing, and it may have made sense back then. And let's talk about that. What makes sense to us is what has us feeling better in some way. Now, this is where habit can come in, because we'll say, this does not feel better. This does not feel good. So what do you mean? That's where we can say that it's a habit that we've just kind of gotten caught in, and we've become aware that that is no longer serving us. At some point in our life, it made sense to do that. It made sense in the way that in some way it had us feel safer, quieter minded, calmer, better, whatever the better is in that particular situation. I'll use an example with food. I talk a lot about the body. I've had a lot of insights about the body. And there's still things that are still unwinding around that. When we look at food, it's simple because it's universal in that we all eat. So, and there might be particular foods that maybe we eat and it might not make our body feel the best. It might be something that we've been eating since we were a kid, and that's we eat, and that's when we eat it, and then you start to kind of recognize that it actually doesn't make me feel good. But you keep eating it sometimes for a long time after you notice that it's producing some effects in the body that you don't like, that is not serving. And then one day, if you care to continue to notice this, which you probably will because your body is telling you, and maybe even in louder and louder voices, in the way of pain or discomfort. That's how it's happened for me. That this is not serving. And it's like, yeah, I know, but I keep doing it. What I've noticed is that so that's one of the things that we do. We'll just kind of be into a habit of it. We might do things like set a deadline. Okay, on this day, and usually it's like a Monday morning after a weekend or something, I'm stopping. A couple months ago, I stopped drinking coffee. Since then, I've actually had cups of coffee. Maybe that story may or may not come up. If it feels relevant later, it will. But it's like, I've done that. It's like, okay, there's a deadline. I've set myself a deadline. And then I try and squeeze myself into this time. It's like preparing. And then it comes, and maybe or maybe not it happens. Usually, how it worked for me was that it would maybe work for a few days. Maybe I wouldn't even get through the first day. Because it's all like push and force and willpower. Which is limited. Yeah, we do have willpower. We do. And we're all different people. We all have different stores, let's say, of willpower. But it has a limit. So there's only so long we can keep up with that before it falls by the wayside. So making deadlines or using other deadlines that are already there. Oh, it's this wedding coming up. By that time, I'm going to have, lost 10 pounds or, stopped this or started that or whatever. I love the, getting into shape before going to the gym. Okay, I'm going to join the gym then. That means I have this much time. It's like we try to force ourselves to do things that, well, we don't necessarily really want to do. Now, the things that I was just talking about is more like, or I'm going to get to all of those things too, because there's like means to an end. There's a number of things that we do. Another thing that we might try and do is scare ourselves. We try and scare ourselves into making a change. You're not getting any younger, Mick-eye-la. It's like, I had a conversation with a dietitian several weeks ago, and talking about women of my age and that kind of thing, and I've told her, it's like, I really want to live just intuitively, because I know there's something deeper inside of me that knows exactly how to take care of my body. I want to do that. And she's like, okay, well, and then still these are things that you might want to keep in mind about bones and heart and all that kind of stuff. So we might take that and scare ourselves into, oh, I don't want my bones to break and all that kind of stuff. So now, gathering information, I think it's great. I love to hear. I love to be open-minded and hear different things and then bring it in and see what makes sense. But forcing or scaring yourself, myself, it's not helpful in the long run. Hi, Maya. It takes a daily commitment to break a habit. Let's talk about what else is possible. Because when we talk about, like when I hear commitment, it feels a little bit harder for me. When I hear breaking, ooh, And even the word habit, right? We have a lot of thinking about habit. I do. I understand now, but I used to think, oh, habits, right? Takes so many days or months or whatever it is to break a habit. And commitment. Maybe there is well, yeah, I'm really resistant to saying that word commitment because it feels hard. If we're going to commit to something, like being in the moment, but let's play with it. Let's play with it. I hope you're game. Yeah. Nicholas, sounds like a conflict. It is. For me, it is. When I think about commitment, I think about losing my freedom. So how can we change things, have things changed without feeling restricted or constricted, like by deadlines or by something like a commitment? And commitment, we all have different feelings about words. So Maya, that word for you might not, it's like commitment's no big deal. I have a lot of thinking about the word. Isn't that interesting? I'm a living example here. So let's just explore a little bit more about why. So those are some of the ways that I see that we will try and force ourselves to make a change. And here's another way, and here's something else. Or we wait for the easy button, or we just search, right? Do a lot of searching, looking for the thing that's going to make it super easy. Where there isn't, I don't have to break a habit, or we don't have to commitment, or, have to make a commitment. Maya, thinking about it the way I always have hasn't helped me, so I'm open to a different perspective. Okay, well, let's explore, right? Because even this morning, you do a lot of Google searching. Hi, Alana. Do you do a lot of Google searching for solutions? Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's look at this. Because first of all, why does this even happen? And if you have something in your mind, I have one that's fresh for me and that I think I've just seen something new on, right? It's actually involving creating a course in here because it's been a real block for me. So it's just like, why? Why do we keep, there's other things that we might do to feel better, avoid. Elena, but you feel hesitant to try solutions because it feels like a risk or a monetary commitment. Yeah. Okay, well, what I'm going to propose to you today is coming from within you. It'll cost you nothing but your attention. Nothing but your own attention and presence to it. And you could say that you could commit to it or all of that, but it's just like, it's not. It's not. Let's look at why these things happen. Why we do things that we don't want to, or we don't do things that we want to. Right? So, first of all, if we're looking either way, we're getting some kind of a payoff. I'm glad this is resonating. We get some kind of a payoff. When we were a kid, it might have been just, I should come up with something that I could think of as a kid. I can. So I'm the youngest of 7. So like my older ones were already gone when I could really remember them. So, but when I wanted time, I would go outside there was, we lived on a farm, so there was lots of places I could go to be by myself. We're always, and it's like, I can see me still doing that today, going off on my own. I think this is a very natural thing, right? We do that. That's not really a great example of something, because that's like something that I enjoy doing. However, sometimes I will create a conflict to get alone time. I've seen me do it over and over. It's like, okay. So the first thing is you don't have to be really clear. We don't have to dig back into our past, but like when you know that you're getting a payoff, when you know that you're getting to feel better, even if it's momentarily, because we're moment to moment people. We can only live in the moment. So the feeling better that we're reaching for is momentary. It might last longer or it might not. If you're here, probably there's things that you're wanting to do or not wanting to do because the continuing of that is not feeling good in the little bit longer term. So if I need quiet time and I need space, instead of saying, hey, I need some quiet time, I need some space, and I'll still catch myself doing it. Because even when you become aware of the payoff of doing something that you really don't want to do, I don't want conflict in my relationship. I don't want that. All I wanted was a little bit of time. Just wanted some quiet time. I just wanted to be alone. I think I want to be alone for the whole night. Maybe for the whole day. So there's always a payoff. So you might ask yourself that. What is it? And it'll be a momentary payoff, because I can tell you that as soon as I've created the conflict and now I got the space, because, Rob doesn't want to be around me like that, and I'm kind of grumpy and like it's repelling. I've got my space. Doesn't feel good for long. Actually, and more when I've spoken about this tension, that the worse things get to feel, I'm like, it's like, okay, good, because I'm getting more intolerant of this carrying on. But I don't have to let it get so quick. And I hope that I'll share something today that will help you to not have to wait so long that it just gets so cruddy feeling. Even though we can know it's like, okay, there's something coming. We're being offered this opportunity to change this. So there's always something that we're looking for that is helpful. And if it doesn't feel great to us, that is sort of our innate, like, I don't want conflict. I don't want to create a fight. Actually, we don't really fight. It's not really what we do, but we'll get where we'll just like, So it's like, I don't really want to create that. It doesn't feel good. I'm so glad that it doesn't feel good, because it's like, it caused me to want to look at what's going on. We make meaning of these things, right? I'm just going to check in. Angel, hi Angel. I feel a lot of the reason I do this is to sabotage myself in some way. Yeah, well, let's look at that. Well, we look at this for yourself here. Why? What is the payoff? What is it that you are gaining by either continuing to do it or not do it? I wanted to not do that with Rob. I wanted to look at, it's like, okay, when I start feeling like I'm gonna, like I'm gonna be nitpicking things, it's not conscious, really. Like, it wasn't a conscious thing, like, okay, I'm gonna create some things so that, he doesn't want to be with me, and, it'll, and then, I'll have a reason for getting on I never thought that out. There was no thought of that. But once I became present once I became present to, okay, what am I looking for here? And I knew it was, I just want some free time. So how can I get it? I can see that. What could I do instead to get it? I can actually just say, I would like this. It's amazing when you open up your heart and just really become honest and ask for what you want or need in a way that's not, in a way that's just truly coming from this place, not in the heat of a moment, like, oh my God, I just need some quiet time. Can we, not like that. Away from those moments. Hey, can we talk about this? I notice that I seem to pick a fight. I keep saying fight, but it's not really fight, but I pick something so that we get rubbing each other the wrong way. And then I get space. I don't want to do that. I would rather just ask for space. And we just maintain our nice relationship. How can you have both? However you're looking at it right now, it's making sense to you on some level. Because here is something that you can hang on to, is that you're only ever doing what makes sense to you in the moment. So somehow it's making sense to you. So for yourself right now, what is coming up? What have you brought to this or what's brought you to this conversation? Either something you want to start doing, or you want to do it differently, or you don't want to, something you want to be different. So, Angel, it says you feel like, that you're sabotaging. So the reason that you do it is not to sabotage yourself. But there's some kind of payoff that doesn't feel like a good payoff anymore that you are getting as a result of what you're calling sabotaging yourself. And let me tell you, it could be the bizarrest things. It can be super bizarre. I used to do, we called it breakthrough work. And it was intense. And but we would get to kind of the root reason of what the payoff was. Because there was always a payoff. But they were bizarre. Like they didn't even, and here's the thing, here's the key. At one point in your life, this made sense. And then it's just carried forward. It's just carried forward. And there's more and more tension, which tells you that, it's not serving anymore. At one point, way back then it did. Now it doesn't. So when you know that you're only doing things that make sense to you, it's like right now, this is just a habit that has been making sense. Doesn't make sense anymore. Once you see the payoff that you're getting, maybe it's space, maybe it's like, I don't know what it might be, right? Infinite number of things. Once you see what it is that you're getting, and you see, oh my gosh, maybe you don't even like me in that scenario. Yeah, I do want some space. I actually like to have a lot of quiet time on my own. So how can I get that? It no longer, once I could clearly see it, it no longer makes sense to create a rub in my personal relationship in order to get people to back off and give me some space. I could just say, I need a night. I need a couple hours. Are you seeing something? Thumbs up or a yes? Or heart? Thanks. Yes. Hi, Haley. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. You know, I'm so glad. So another thing about this word sabotage. Hi, Maya. I notice that some of my bad habits naturally stop whenever I begin to feel differently. Like when I feel depressed, I fall into certain patterns that will naturally go away when I feel happier. Wow. Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's really great noticing. I would like to offer something along with that, Maya. That you feel differently because you're thinking differently. A feeling cannot be felt unless there's first a thought. They kind of rise together. So when you're feeling, when you're, let me just read this back. So like when I feel depressed, I fall into certain patterns that will naturally go away when I feel happier. So I want to point this out to you. This is really, really important. It seems that, like, this is how it's looking to you. It looks that like those depressive thoughts are no longer there when you feel happier. But what has happened is you are having happier thoughts. And you can only think and feel one thing at a time. So if you're feeling happier, it means that you are not thinking depressive thoughts. Now, you might not be aware that you're actually thinking happy thoughts, because so long as your mind is clear of the depressive thoughts, you will feel happier. This is so important. This is foundational. In the end, when I say foundational, it's actually, if you've been here before, I talk about mind, consciousness, and thought, the three principles as articulated by a lovely gentleman who I've never had the pleasure to meet. He has since passed, but he had an enlightenment experience and saw through and found the missing link, as he calls it, to our experience of life. And that is that we experience the feeling of our thinking. We experience the thoughts that we have create an experience. Now, we might look at our habit. We might look at this thing that's going on with us, this thing that we keep doing, that we don't want to do. And we have a lot of thinking about it, and it keeps it in place. So I'm going to offer today that we look at not that, but let's look underneath it. Hi, Shar. Is it Shar? Emotions flow where the mind goes. Yes. Yes. When it looks like we're experiencing our kids, challenging us, or our vehicle breaking down, or the government doing something we don't want, or the weather, is rainy and cloudy in there. If we look at all of those things and think that they are affecting our feelings, our state of mind, depressive, happy, we've got it backwards. That's how it looks. That's how we've been taught to see life, to experience it. That's what we've been taught. But actually, it is an inside-out experience. We can only experience what we think about any of that. It puts total agency back with you. And we're human and we forget, and we have habits that we have. But the habits are made of thought as well. It's all thought. There's nothing that's not thought. Yes, hello, all blessings to all. Sure. Hi, Tatiana. Nice to see you. We are only ever in relationship with our own thinking. That's it, that's all. Even when we're in relationship with each other here, or our partners or our kids, we're only in relationship with our thinking about them. And that's why it can change. So, Maya, I really want you to notice that. And when that your how you were already either had less on your mind, because when there's less thinking on our mind, we are automatically, our energy level rises. The vibration of us rises. We are happier. Or maybe it's just neutral. Getting back in one thing I want to point out as well, when we're looking at something else that kind of happens, when we're looking at something that we want to change. I want to change this. I want to, do this, and we have to feel like we have to force ourselves into it. And it's like, why? We feel like we have to force ourselves into something only because we don't want to do it. And then, so there's two things I can see here. Is one, it's something we believe we have to do in order to change the thing. Like if it's, okay, there's a wedding coming up and I want to lose 10 pounds for it. I'm only giving examples that I've done before. Excuse me. So there's that. So I think that what I need to do is, go to the gym and work out, and I gotta oh my God, is those eating salads and, rice cakes for, that's what I used to do. And I actually like rice cakes, but I haven't had them for ages. Probably because I had so many of them so many years ago. So we think that we need to do these things in order to get the experience that we really want, to stop doing that thing, to have that thing done. But that is like a means to an end. We're not actually going for what we want. It's like we're driving into the ditch. We're driving through the ditch in order to get to Niagara Falls. All the way there. Instead of just, can we just go there directly? Like, why do we want to go through all of this icky stuff in order to get to where we're going? Let's just take an easier route. Let's just go directly there. And why don't we see where it takes us? Because wisdom is going to guide you in a way. When you put your attention, and let's talk about this now, that's what I'm getting to. When you put your attention on what it is that you truly want, as opposed to the stuff that you're trying to get rid of or stop, the way there will be laid out for you moment by moment by your own inner wisdom in the way that works for you. Hi, Laurie. Nice to see you. So what really is helpful here is to see it differently. Is to see what it is that you're gaining. So looking, just getting curious. It's really about taking it in, taking it away, and checking it out. Instead of beating yourself up about it or getting down on yourself about it, it's like pick it up like a curious object. And just have a look at it. What what am I getting from this? What happens? What's been helpful to me in the past is what happens when this thing happens, like if it's something that I'm wanting to not do or do. And I'll do with the course. I had all this thought about it, about how it's like I'm better in the moment. I love doing lives. Love it. I would like to be more succinct, to be more helpful, so that maybe you can hear it more clearly, more logical maybe, because I tend to go here, there, and everywhere. But I love it. And the thought of doing a course, it's like, ooh, I'm feeling crammed and squished, and like I have to do it a certain way, and I have to make it, polished or whatever. Like I had all of these thoughts about how it looked, how it had to look in order for me to do that. So I just didn't. I just avoided it. So what did I get? Momentarily, I got relief from thinking about it. But I say momentary because it didn't last long, and it's like, but I really want to. I really want to. So I had to see the payoff. I had to recognize that the payoff is, yes, I'm avoiding it, and the payoff is a little bit of peace of mind, but it didn't last. So does this resonate? If you take this into whatever situation you're bringing to this call, is there something you can see there for yourself, for your own? Cool. I'm going to invite you to baby step this checking it out. What if it's something that you're putting off, that you're avoiding doing, you're not doing, then it's like, what is the tiniest little thing that you could do? The tiniest little step. And just do that. Tiniest thing. Just do that. And just see what happens. When we get into motion on something, if we're calling our inner guidance, our inner GPS, if we don't start somewhere, know where we are, we know where we are, here we are, I've looked at this thing and I can see that, I'm feeling like I can't be myself and I have to be something else and I have to, and I can see that is what I'm imagining, but I actually have no evidence of that because I've not actually done it yet. But I can see what I'm imagining and I'm pushing myself away. So then I'm doing the avoidance, getting that little break. So it's like, okay, once you've kind of seen that, that's like, okay, here's my starting point. I know where I'm at. I think it's about this. I see all these other people doing it. And I actually had a conversation with someone who does do it regularly. And that was helpful to hear some of the questions. How can you do it with fun? How could this be more fun? How could this be easier? What do I want it? How do I want this experience to be? I want it to be easy. I want it to be flow. I want it to be natural. I want to be myself. If I can't be myself, then I don't want to do it. Did someone ask me to not be myself? No. So here's just a few of the questions that you can ask yourself. And if you have something specific that you want to bring in that we can just ask some questions about, we can do that. You're always going to track to what feels better. So the thing is, when we see something differently, when you see something differently about it, you will, you can't unsee it. You can't unsee it. And you will naturally be tracked towards, you will be guided. You will be, the guidance is there. You may not hear it right away. This morning I was lying in bed. I was awake for quite a while. I had no idea what time it was. I felt pretty awake. I felt okay. And then it's like, okay, well, let me just see. Because if it's like 2 a.m, I'll just go back to sleep. And if not, then I'll, and I looked and it was 5:08. My alarm was set for 5:15. And it's just like, oh, and I just snuggled in more. And then I asked the question in my mind. I was just playing because I know someone who does this all the time. And so I was playing. I'm trying to like test some different things out. And it's like, okay, tell me what I should do. What should I do now? And immediately I got a vision in my mind of me outside walking. And I went, no. And then it was just like, oh my gosh, that is how quickly we can dismiss the wisdom that is talking to us. Because it was just a flash. And immediately it was like, no. And then I caught it. Well, let me tell you, I'm betting, I think it's a good bet, that this is happening to each and every one of us all throughout the day. And sometimes we catch it. We catch, like, go here, do this, call that, and we do it. And we don't think anything about it. We just do it and things work out. But I bet you we're always getting little messages like that. And we're just in such a habit of go, or do, whatever it is that we've been in habit of doing, that we're dismissing it. So I jumped out of bed. Well, I didn't jump, but I got directly out of bed and I went for a walk. And it was just like, thank you, thank you, thank you. Hi, Nicholas. Laura, actually, Nicholas is saying hi to Lori and Shar. Yeah. So once you see something, you can't unsee it, and you will, the transformation is already there happening. It's happening without you forcing yourself to do something. It's already there and guiding and just waiting for you to come along. So when you see it differently, and think about the ways that you want to see it differently, how do you want it to be? For me, fun and, easy and free, it's important to me. That's our nature, right? It's your nature. So it'll be something that'll have you wanting to feel more like you. More like what feels really good to you. And the words that you use might be different. So I invite you to get curious on the payoff and see if it makes sense now. And I'm betting it doesn't. What does? Because once you see what doesn't make sense, we live in a contrastive world. So when you see what doesn't make sense, what makes sense is right there. And the feeling is what will drive you towards it. It'll lead you there. It'll be a gentle draw or nudge. It will not be a lot of hard and push and force and, there might be deadlines that come up. There might be. That's kind of how our world works, right? There was a time that I had to commit to show up here live and actually have a chance of other people showing up too, right? So there are things that we will commit to, but it'll be easy. It'll be like a no-brainer. It'll be like, of course. It won't have the heaviness of how I sometimes look at commitment, the word commitment, and what that means. Even in this, I can look at, well, what else have I committed to? I committed to this and I love this. That was a great commitment. Commitment isn't so bad. Do you see how when we can see something, once we've kind of looked at it a little bit? What do you mean you don't like commitment, Mick-eye-la? You committed to this. I committed to all kinds of things this week. Commitment's actually pretty good. It's kind of allowed me to meet up with some really wonderful people. Lori, I seem to spend time talking myself out of doing what wisdom is telling me. Yeah, what's the payoff? If you can pick one of those situations that might come to mind, Lori, just ask what's the payoff of not doing it. I get a lot of fear over doing new things. I actually committed to doing something. I didn't really commit. I put it out. It was one of those things that I put a deadline in because I thought it would force me to like get it all together. I think I got to cancel something. I think I got to take something off the books because it's just like, it's not, whenever I think about it, it doesn't feel like, yes, it's like, yes, there's going to be a time for it, but no, the time is not now. Change will happen naturally when you see something new and fresh about it. When there's new sense that's been made. We've talked about this before, when you look back at something in the past and think, and say, what was I thinking? Yeah. Something happened. So at that time, you were thinking a certain way and it made sense, and that's what you did. And at some point along the way, and sometimes we don't even know what changed what. You don't even necessarily know what will spark you to do differently. You might just start to notice that you're doing something differently. And then it's like, oh my gosh, when did I start doing that? Or when did I stop doing that? It can happen. It can happen all the time. It is happening. Never mind, it can happen. It is happening all the time. And sometimes we're just so not present in our life to notice it. What helped me this morning too was just like, well, it wasn't this morning. That came after, but the last couple of days was about how do other people do it that don't seem to have a problem doing this? So whatever it is, Lori, is there something that someone else is doing? And maybe it's worth a conversation. Maybe. Now again, you need to check in with your own inner wisdom. Anything that I've said today, test it out for yourself. What makes sense to you? Take what is connecting. And maybe something is and isn't today. And I know from my own personal experience, when I've, listened to a talk or something from wherever, read a book or whatever on something that I thought would help, and it's like, well, okay, that. And then, like a few months later, whenever you read it again or listen again, it's like, oh my gosh, I got so much more out of that. Because our level of consciousness on different things, it rises. The more aware we become, the more we see, the more we see. Yeah. Something else that just came to mind, where it's true that some things that we can get focused on something and think it's a real problem. And when we pick it up and we look at it and just get curious about it, and don't, like it's outside of you, it's, just have a look at it. Ask these questions, get curious. And you might find that what seemed like a problem with it is actually not such a big deal. It's actually not what you were thinking. It wasn't. You might be surprised and find out different things in this exploration that will surprise you, that you weren't intent. It had nothing to do with that. It was actually something else. And once your attention alights on what it is that you truly want, what has you feeling better, all of these things just seem to kind of work themselves out. I had a conversation this morning with someone around transformation. And it's like, if we use the butterfly. So before, it was a butterfly, it was warm, and it wormed its way around on the ground or wherever it leaves. And then it became, butterfly soup, and then it became a butterfly. And the butterfly, you don't find a butterfly laying down on its belly, scorching its way around all over. Transformation happens. What made sense before no longer makes sense when you see something new, when you've kind of gotten curious and explored that. It's like new ways of being in the world will just come up for you. So noticing is the big thing. And when we notice things, we're present. When we're actually curious and noticing things in the morning, taking them out, we're present. Or getting present to them. I would really love to know, one, was it helpful? And two, is there something still that was something that still feels really outstanding? Or does it feel like you can take this away and test it out and explore? It might be, if there is something that is still outstanding, I can address that in another talk or a course, maybe. I find, it can be, we look, I was looking for an easy button, and I talked to a number of people to help, to give me the easy button, because I just wanted it to be so easy. And what I noticed was, wow, I will still have resistance sometimes on getting curious and looking. It's like, what's the payoff in that? Well, I keep looking for help. I keep avoiding all of this stuff that I'm actually saying that I want to do. But it's actually it's another way of avoidance for me personally. Lori, tell myself I will get up a bit earlier and walk to work, but I never do, even though I know it would be good for me in my headspace. Yeah. So what is it that you're getting from not? Because I know when I snuggled down into bed this morning, I knew that I would just be sitting there thinking, and that was not helpful either. And then, of course, I caught that. Lots, Hannah. Hi, Hannah. Lots of wisdom. I was just thinking earlier what to do with thoughts that are not helpful, good for us. Yeah, just let them go, really. Because they just, as soon as we try and do something with them, or we make them alive and we make them bigger and we give them energy and they grow and they grow and they grow and they feel like they're overtaking us and we start to feel hopeless and all kinds of crazy things, when really it's just like, oh my gosh, it's just like, it's just a cloud, it's just a thought. There's another one right on its hind end. Is that a better thought? Does that one make me feel good? Next. You can keep pressing the next button. Shar, what I'm hearing is an approach through self-compassion and curiosity, not through judgment and condemnation. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because here's the thing, we're all doing the best we can with our current level of thinking. And if it's feeling like, okay, I want to feel better, great. Then what could I do? Well, let's just notice here. Notice that obviously I must be putting my attention, my thinking, my thoughts on things that, not on things. My thinking is in a way that's causing my feeling. So if I'm feeling down, I'm having downer kind of thinking. Getting curious, it's like, oh, wow, okay. What would I like instead? Ask, what would I like instead? And go there. What do you really want? Lift your attention up from where it is. What do I really want? What would be easier? What would be better? What would feel good? Something will come from within you. It's always going to guide you in the better and the lighter way. Now, Lori, just to you, and I'm taking it back to bed. So I could have, even though I saw me walking outside, and my immediate reaction was, and then I caught it. Well, I didn't think any more about it. I could have talked myself out of it. Oh, but it's cold out and I don't want to. And I just, my alarm's going to go off and, whatever. We can do that. But what was the payoff for that? I know it wasn't enough, because a few more minutes in my warm bed could not have matched what I felt walking outside. And I walked for longer than I had intended, because it just felt so good. So how about when you think about baby stepping your way there? Because that's one of the things that can kind of, it's like you're getting a nudge to go to walk to work. What if you didn't, I don't know how long walking to work is, but what if you just got up a bit earlier and just walked? Maybe it wasn't to work. Maybe you just stuck your nose outside and stood outside for a few minutes. What if it was that? What would just help you to feel just a little bit better than you might now, with no stepping outside before work at all? Hannah, okay, right, that's right, yeah. Shar, what am I hearing? Yes, right, yeah, Hannah, being too critical for myself, etc. Yeah, let's let all that go, because it's not helpful, right? When we say we're being critical on ourselves, it means that we're thinking in ways that actually weighs us down. It actually doesn't feel good. So we want to blast off of that. And the great question is, what would be better? What would be fun? What would be like, what are your words, right? What would be exciting? What would be easier? What would be nice? Maybe it's, oh, yeah, I'm going to go make a cup of tea. Doesn't mean it's going to be some big thing, right? So I will leave that there for today. There's actually something, yeah, so I'll just point, I am recording these. I do have a link. I have a lot to upload, and I think there's just the first 8 up there. But I need to just get a little, see, look at that. That's one of the things I've kind of been avoiding. It's a little bit of a process to do, but it's not a big deal. It's not, but obviously I've made it so I will get to doing those, even like one a week or a couple a week, just get them uploaded. So right now the first 8 that I've done are there, and you can look for a link to those. On tomorrow, it's tomorrow. On tomorrow, I'm going to be here at 1:11 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, and it's floating on the ocean of daily emotion. So it's going to be fun. It's about, so I'll read it. It's like having an inkling of how you create your own waves of emotion gives you more agency over the size and duration of them, and the fear of being overwhelmed by them will dissipate. And I got permission from Insight Timer this morning to read a little book to you. It's only about 5 minutes, and it's a kid's board book. But it's fun, and it really demonstrates this creation and the ebb and flow, and the rise and fall of our emotions. It's fun. So I think it'll demonstrate that well. So thank you so much for being here. And would love to see you again. Follow if you aren't already. Would love to have you in the community, and if there's ever anything that you want me to address more specifically, then please let me know that too. Always open to hear that. So, love to you. Shar, Mick-eye-la, beautiful and so helpful. Thank you for the wisdom sharing. You're so welcome, and thank you. You're welcome, Lori. Nice to see you. You're welcome, Suze. Tatiana. You're welcome, Hannah. Ciao for now.